Hi everybody. I remembered my glasses this time. Welcome to This Week in Massachusetts Theatre, Episode 9. We are in Stoneham, where we're seeing the musical comedy Murder for Two, which is featuring two of Boston's most prolific stage actors, Jared Trillo and Will McGarrahan. Will I like it? Let's find out. Enjoy. I'll talk to you in a few minutes. Bye-bye. Hi everyone. So, welcome back. So this is episode 9, and we're going to be reviewing 4 shows this week. The first one will be Wait Until Dark by Frederick Knott and Jeffrey Hatcher, which plays at Cannon Theatre in Devons. The second show will be Murder for Two by Joe Kinosian and Kellen Blair, which is playing at Greater Boston Stage Company in Stoneham. And then we will also be looking at Lizard Boy, the new musical, by Justin Huertas at Speakeasy Stage Company in Boston. And then finally, we're going to be looking at Steel Magnolias, which is taking place at the Majestic Theatre out in West Springfield. So sit back, enjoy, and we'll be back in a little bit. Bye. As lights come up on Cannon Theatre's inspired production of Wait Until Dark, the terror soon begins for someone who cannot see such light, nor any light for that matter. And yet, for the 3 ruthless criminals that seek to trick and torment an incredibly brave blind woman, it is they who will soon find themselves outwitted and outnumbered. The single set design is highly detailed for the ugly basement apartment where the story of Wait Until Dark takes place. While it may not seem like much, it is an apartment perfectly suited to the needs of a recently married couple simply trying to make ends meet on a budget. It is here that the young unsighted woman is about to find herself caught up in a very dangerous game. The Cannon Theatre set design is immaculately detailed. In this rundown 1940s-style apartment, along with the back wall, there's an ugly white refrigerator that, with its door wide open from the inside, you, but not she, can see a bright white light. A safe is located to one side, with a sofa toward the front of the stage, and a kitchen table with some assorted chairs, all positioned to make things more accessible to a person without sight. The thriller Wait Until Dark was first written by Frederick Knott, but then adapted into a 1967 major motion picture featuring iconic actress Audrey Hepburn, who played the story's heroine, Susan. The last moments in the movie are still considered among the most suspenseful scenes ever captured on film. The cast assembled for the Cannon Theatre staging all bring their level best to the material and provide commendable performances. For the 2013 stage adaptation by playwright Jeffrey Hatcher, which moves from the 1960s to the 1940s, it still presents a female lead character that is not only resilient in how she faces criminal adversaries in Wait Until Dark, she also faces her own physical adversity. In some ways, the new concept by Hatcher is effective, but in other ways it doesn't really serve the material well. Susan, played by Megan Trask, not born blind, but rather only recently became blind, is at home alone. Trask excels in the authenticity she brings to the portrayal of Susan. Susan's husband, Sam, played by Sumit Sarin, a photographer, has been called away on an assignment. Sarin as Sam is fine, but is only on stage for mere minutes, and it is not seen again until the very end of the show. Therefore, as written, there's really quite little the actor can do to make an impact. We learned Sam was asked to hold on to a doll for an enigmatic woman as they both exited on an airplane, but suddenly the woman left in a hurry, leaving Sam with the doll. So Sam brought the doll home. Under the proficient direction of Ali Coase, as the play Wait Until Dark unfolds, Susan's life is put into jeopardy by crooks playing in a massive cat and mouse game for which her only ally is a young neighbor, Gloria, played by Hannah Abenanti, a troubled, unruly, rambunctious young woman. Abenanti is quite good on stage, not only serving as Susan's only ally, but also providing much-needed humor in an otherwise dark and gloomy script. We learn We learn that the missing woman Sam encountered was a drug smuggler. The doll is now being sought by her accomplice, Mr. Rote, played by Chris Wiley, who has made the woman an offer she couldn't refuse while coercing his two co-conspirators, Mike, played by Eric Chung, and Carlino, played by Jason Norman, into implementing his scheme to recover the doll, which holds a fortune in smuggled heroin. Among the performances in Wait Until Dark's six-member cast, Trask and Wiley each proves most impressive throughout. Forced by the script into carrying the lion's share of the show, Trask's impressive performance as Susan completely dominates the piece. Wiley presents Rote as a relentless and ruthless manipulator, absent of any moral center, also displaying some acting versatility as Rote assumes several disguises along the way during his elaborate scheme to fool Susan into revealing where Sam hid the doll. As the enigmatic Mike, Chung was quite amiable on stage, and his character undergoes the most changes in Hatcher's reconstructed adaptation. However, lost as part of that same restructuring is the relationship between Mike and Carlino, leaving Norman less to work with in his portrayal of Carlino as a result. Otherwise, Norman does a fine job with Carlino, especially in his scenes at the beginning of the play, acting opposite Wiley as Rote. Gone are many of the wonderful, originally scripted moments which showcased a newly blind Susan as she learns skills needed as a modern-day blind person. However, with the 1940s setting, a lot of these skills may not have yet even existed as much as they have in the post-1950s. The use of the blinds and technical effects used in the show were implemented with precision. Wait Until Dark continues from Cannon Theatre in Devon until November 8th, 2025, and audiences should be cautioned to anticipate riveting moments of intense adversity taking place in virtual darkness. For tickets and more information, visit thecannontheatre.org. So I wanted to talk a little bit about something that was a very unusual occurrence that happened this past weekend. It happened first at Greater Boston Stage Company in Stoneham with a two-hander, Murder for Two. And then it happened again at Speakeasy Stage Company in Boston with a three-person cast. And these are two exceptional companies that just happen to have the same event take place, which has never happened before in my experience, having reviewed them these past 7 years. What happened was, first, at Murder for Two on Saturday night, midway through the show, the two actors are on stage, and a voice comes up over the intercom and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have to hold for a few minutes. Actors, please leave the stage." The actors left. Whatever technical mishap was going on was apparently rectified because the actors returned and the show resumed. Everything was fine. Everybody was happy. So, that said, Sunday, matinee, big performance for Lizard Boy, the new musical by Justin Huertas, with a three-person cast, and two of the actors are on stage, and midway through, "Ladies and gentlemen, we need to hold for a technical issue for a few minutes. Actors, please leave the stage." So the actors leave the stage, and this one was a little bit more involved because it took longer. It was about a good intermission-sized delay, and for a show that didn't have an intermission. And even the director came out to apologize to the audience for what had happened. And then, again, the actors return, everything resumes, and the show continues uninterrupted for the remainder of the show. And, everything was fine. So while this is unusual, it happened. So it has to be acknowledged. And the reviews do reflect the intermissions, the unexpected intermissions, but I believe they were fairly addressed. And again, this was an aberration, two aberrations, if you will, that very, very rarely occur. So I don't expect this to be a recurring theme as these shows progress. But again, they happened, they need to be addressed, acknowledged, and move on. So thank you. But just to continue, if it happens again in West Springfield for Steel Magnolias, I'm going to start taking it personally. Greater Boston Stage Company presents a dangerously funny Murder for Two, which is a deadly musical comedy arriving just in time to help close out the spooky season. With book and lyrics by Kellen Blair and book and music by Joe Kinosian, the 90-minute musical farce with no intermission is a whodunit for two actors who both sing and play piano on stage. Debuting in Chicago in 2011, Murder for Two won a Joseph Jefferson Award for Best New Musical. 2 years later, it premiered off-Broadway, where it was nominated for a Drama Desk Award for Outstanding Book of a Musical and an Outer Critics Circle Award for Outstanding New Off-Broadway Musical. The GBSC production is capably directed by Tyler Rosati, with music direction by Bethany Aiken. As Murder for Two begins, a murder takes place at the birthday party for the famous and equally infamous author Arthur Whitney, and the police are on site to investigate, although the detective in charge of the investigation has yet to arrive. The two-person GBSC cast consists of Will McGarahan as the suspects, with McGarahan performing all the roles of all the eccentric suspects and other characters, and Jared Toillo as a policeman wanting to be a detective, Marcus, who takes charge and investigates the murder. The two actors are both quick on their feet, which is required given the rapid pacing of the show. They equally display complete piano virtuosity from beginning to end as the madcap murder mystery unfolds. At the October 25th GBSC performance, there was a minor technical issue which interrupted the Murder for Two performance for approximately 10 minutes. Once the production resumed, the two actors continued undeterred, concluding an otherwise exemplary performance. As scripted and scored by Kinosian and Blair, Murder for Two is silly, occasionally sophomoric, with no apologies implied, nor offered, nor required. However, it may be too silly for some, while not silly enough for others. Your mileage may vary, but as for myself, I thought the GBSC show was wildly entertaining. This show is strictly for fun, and anyone seeing it should just avoid overthinking any of the absurd plot twists and simply enjoy the infectious fun offered by musical and comical antics by McGarahan and Toillo. In his role portraying most of, the suspects, McGarahan is allocated with carrying the weight of the varied flying costumes and prop pieces, displaying great versatility in the process. The list of suspects McGarahan portrays include the prima ballerina, the widow, the niece, the psychiatrist, and, well, let's just say more for now. You'll need to see it to believe it, trust me. The entire GBSC production of Murder for Two takes place on a deceptively cleverly constructed set, which yields some unexpected laughs along the way as well. Murder for Two continues in Stoneham at GBSC until November 9th, 2025, and to miss this show would be a fatal mistake. For tickets, contact GBSC Box Office at 781-279-2200 or at boxoffice@greaterbostonstage.org. To read the full review, visit METRMag.com. Warning: the following review contains spoilers. Additional warning: puns ahead. Speakeasy Stage Company presents the quirky indie rock show Lizard Boy, a New Musical, telling the story of a young man with a peculiar condition who goes on a blind date which leads him into an unexpected quest of mythic proportions. First of all, let's get the bat out of the room by stating emphatically that Lizard Boy, a New Musical, should in no way be confused with Bat Boy, the musical. The two have zero in common, and if you liked one, chances are you may not like the other. Me, I like them both, but for very different reasons. I won't compare the two any further here other than to say that with Bat Boy, elevated camp succeeded, but with Lizard Boy, an elevated sense of sincerity succeeds. Featuring a diverse and accomplished cast of three, the Speakeasy Stage Musical with book, music, and lyrics by Justin Huertas was supposedly not only inspired by the musical Spring Awakening, which is pretty evident in how the musical structure flows, but also by comic books including X-Men and Spider-Man. So Huertas obviously has very good taste. Before hitting the Speakeasy stage, the show first debuted in 2015 in Seattle, and by 2023, the show moved to Off-Broadway and is staging at Theater Row. The show, much like a Draco lizard, flew pretty well under the radar at the time, but yet it received high critical praise even with the absent publicity, and Lizard Boy, a new musical, would also ultimately be nominated for 3 Drama Desk Awards. As directed by Lindsay Allen Cox, with music direction by Violet Wang, in the comic book stylized Lizard Boy, we are introduced to Trevor, played by Keiji Ishiguro, an anxious young man beset by his own self-consciousness, brought about by his noticeably green, scaly complexion. As the Lizard Boy, Ishiguro gives an almost chameleon-like performance, blending in the background, playing music when not the focus of the story at that moment, but those moments are rare, since when Trevor is the focus, Ishiguro completely stands out. As Trevor, Ishiguro gives an aura of sensitivity with his insightful, layered performance. So, does that make this Lizard Boy, wait for it, a karma chameleon? Using the Grindr app, Trevor agrees to meet a stranger named Carrie, played by Peter DiMaggio, who aggressively pursues Trevor for sex the moment he arrives at his apartment. Things don't get off to a good start between the two as Carrie mistakes Trevor's appearance as a costume for the Monsterfest event taking place in the city. DiMaggio is quite amiable as the blind date who, through his earnest musical number Carrie song, quickly becomes Trevor's only ally. The actor also brings to the role impressive comedic timing. As the two agree to slow things down to get to know each other as friends first, Trevor sees a magazine in Carrie's apartment that has a face of Trevor's scary blonde dream girl on the cover. We learn that the scary blonde is actually a local singer known as the Siren, played by Chelsea Nectow, but Trevor explains to Carrie that he has been haunted by Siren, who appears in his dreams as a scary blonde calling out to him. Trevor goes to where Siren is performing, and meets her backstage where, as they talk, Siren informs Trevor that they share a unique bond. Necto is simply magnificent as the dominating Siren, rendering her own plight through the song a terrible ride. Siren and Trevor are the last survivors of 6 children who got caught up in a historic dragon attack many years ago, leaving the children with superpowers. Believing these dragons are returning soon to attack once more, Siren turns out to be more ruthless and cold-blooded compared to Trevor, who, as the supposed Lizard Boy, actually comes across as a person filled with great gentleness and warmth. Exposed as the true villain of this comic book saga, Siren, in her blind rage, admits to wanting Trevor's help, in quotes, to defeat the dragons as they strike again, but it would come at a catastrophic cost. All accompaniment in the musical is performed exclusively by the 3 actors, alone or together, and all are skilled musicians as they play cello, guitar, ukulele, piano, kazoo, beatbox, and other instruments. In great superhero fashion, as Trevor confronts all things villainous and monstrous, he must also confront his own insecurities and self-loathing. Trevor must look deep inside to figure out how not to throw away the only chance he has had at a genuine friendship with Carrie, a person who, even after having just met, completely accepts Trevor as he is. The show is not going to appeal to everyone, and at times some might even find the story content a bit amateurish. However, what is not amateurish is the collective performances and level of professionalism displayed by this wonderful trio of actor-musicians. At the October 26th Speakeasy Stage matinee, there was a technical issue which interrupted the Lizard Boy performance for approximately 15 minutes, with director Lindsay Allen Cox coming out, addressing the audience, and apologizing for the interruption. This was appreciated, but turns out was unnecessary, as once the production resumed, the players continued undeterred, concluding a pleasing triumvirate performance. What also works is the onstage chemistry, and coming across as especially genuine is the bond shared between Ishiguro and DiMaggio as Trevor and Carrie. There are multiple plot twists and turns as square to script that by the conclusion of the show get tiresome, trite, and downright silly, and yet otherwise this is one of the smaller scaled shows that tries to convey a larger message, and on that level it succeeds. There are a number of fine songs that include Fourth and Vine, sung by Carrie and Trevor, Another Part of Me, and Truth Is What Matters, sung by the trio of actors, supplying simply gorgeous vocal harmonies. The performance harmonized so well that if an updated official cast recording were to be issued, you would absolutely want this trio singing on that CD. Lizard Boy, A new musical continues at Speakeasy Stage Company in Boston until November 22nd, 2025, and you certainly wouldn't miss the show. For tickets and more information, contact Speakeasy box office at 617-933-8600 or visit speakeasystage.com. To read the full review, visit METRMag.com. The Majestic Theater stage in West Springfield is the place to be for a vibrant take on Steel Magnolias. There's a very good reason why this particular two-act play keeps getting staged by theater companies across America. If done properly and staged accordingly, any ensemble production of Steel Magnolias should reveal the unique sisterhood or bond between the actresses involved, conveying empathy, kindness, and above all, a loving connection between the play's characters. This is where Steel Magnolias staging by the Majestic Theater absolutely succeeds. Based on Robert Harling's own experience with his sister's death, Harling wrote Steel Magnolias to focus on the bond among this group of women in Louisiana. Not only an iconic 1989 film and a more recent 2012 television event, the play adaptation, which premiered in 1987, ran for over 1,100 performances before closing in 1990. Since then, it has been performed all over the country and around the world. While the story is firmly set in Chinquapin Parish, Louisiana during the 1980s, Steel Magnolias has a baroque and timeless quality. The two-act Steel Magnolias opens in the in-home beauty parlor in Chinquapin, run by owner hairstylist Truvy, played by Elaine Holm. Holm embraces the rooted, pun intended, jovial and equally generous qualities of Truvy, who spends most of her time attending to the roots of her customers' varied hair issues, among other issues, at the salon, if only to not otherwise engage for their unseen idle husband. The Majestic Theater set design for Steel Magnolias is simply gorgeous, with great attention paid to details such as salon chairs, hairstyling equipment, accessories, and a salon hairdryer. However, the design of Truvy's salon does give the impression that the entire show is taking place on the back porch of Truvy's home. As directed by Sue Desure, the play runs seamlessly from start to finish, and thanks to the cohesive performances by the actors involved in this splendid Majestic Theater staging, the story never loses focus on its characters and their struggles, hopes, or aspirations. While Steel Magnolias may appear to be a straightforward or simple play to stage, the content and context of the dialogue combined with the actions involved in the day-to-day operation of the salon soon disproves that assumption. In Steel Magnolias, there's a lot going on, both technically and artistically, but with the Majestic production, all the set changes and redresses are accomplished quickly and with minimal downtime. Under Desure's disciplined approach, the execution of Harling's script maintains a delicate balance of humor and humanity embedded in the relationship of the story's characters. Costumes and wigs are appropriate for the time and place, and the overall pacing of the show is outstanding. There is sometimes instantly recognizable in Truvy's clientele, i.e. the ladies who regularly gather at Truvy's salon. These women are not just customers, they are kinfolk. This family takes care of one another through all their respective highs and lows and through all their collective joys and sorrows. And, as pointed out several times in the show, if you didn't let any of them know you had a problem of some kind, they will take offense. Over the course of the play's journey, which spans approximately 32 months broken down into 4 scenes and 2 acts, there are multiple subplots in Majestic Theater's Steel Magnolias involving the unseen men in the lives of these women. Not just husbands or even late husbands, but also boyfriends, fiancés, brothers, or even sons. Thankfully, those chaps are never seen in this and would simply prove to be a distraction from the real story here, which is a story of these women, and it is a story well executed by a solid ensemble of actresses. As the title suggests, the female characters in the Majestic production may seem delicate as magnolias, but they are in fact tough as steel. As Steel Magnolias begins, Truvy has just hired Annelle, played by Kate Rankins, who is new in town, having just arrived with little or nothing to her name. Only just recently married to a shady guy, Annelle's fugitive husband has taken off with her car, money, and everything she owns, leaving Annelle in an emotionally shaken state. Rankins has terrific comedic reflexes, especially in some of her unspoken reactions to some of the antics taking place in the salon. Trudy becomes like an adoptive mother to Annelle, not only hiring her but giving her a place to stay. As the play moves along, Annelle becomes a born-again Christian and occasionally annoys ladies of the salon. High praise extended to both Holm and Rankins, who, respectively as Truvy and Annelle, must also perform the actual hairstyling required in the show, difficult while simultaneously maintaining the flow of the dialogue and actions required throughout. Two of Truvy's regular clients are the young and determined diabetic Shelby, played by Rhea Malcolm, and her concerned mother, Malin, played by Kate Damon. Malin works as a counselor at the local mental health guidance center, but her own mental toughness is about to become sorely tested. Malcolm takes a unique approach to the role of the strong-willed Shelby, who has come to Truvy the day of her wedding to get her hair done with very specific instructions on her desired appearance. Malcolm brings out a brilliantly animated yet defiantly optimistic Shelby in her portrayal of the character, and her distinctive interpretation on her readings of the character's lines is quite inspired. Contrasting nicely with Malcolm's Shelby is Damon as overprotective mom Malin, who is concerned for her daughter, very concerned, not just for the wedding, but for all of Shelby's ongoing risky life choices. Shelby's decision to risk her life to marry and bring forth another life into this world is part of what she feels she needs to do. Shelby needs to know that in her own heart and on her own terms that her time while here on this earth has been for something other than subsistence. Malin chastises Shelby because she feels Shelby risks her life, while Shelby feels the risk is what gives her life meaning. And yet Shelby does this, even with the understanding of how it increases the risk of the onset of severe, possibly fatal medical trauma in the process. As the Majestic Theater play continues, spoiler alert, Shelby's health faces unrelenting challenges, but Shelby's spirit, disposition, and outlook because of these challenges never falter. The chemistry between Damon and Malcolm shows an apparent familial friction, demonstrating how parents and children occasionally have a combative relationship while maintaining a loving mother-daughter dynamic and discourse. Some of that friction or combative dynamic between parent and child occasionally extends well into that child's adulthood, if both are lucky. Among Truvy's other clients is former First Lady of Chinquapin, Clary, played Maconia Chester, who comes across as a permanent fixture as Truvy's, as she almost always seems to be there and is in no apparent hurry to leave. Clary is the widow of the mayor and, as the story unfolds, becomes owner of a local sports team and radio station. Chester is completely cheery and captivating as Clary, a perfect foil for the overbearing Weezer, played by Angela Diaz, a curmudgeonly customer who has been unhappily married twice and has children who never call. Weezer's only rumored companion is her unseen dog. As the caustic Spitfire Weezer, Diaz balances the character well to ensure that, as combative and adversarial as she may appear, Weezer never comes across as a toxic personality. Weezer also reveals a softer side, as well as it becomes evident that she considers the other women at the salon to be her closest friends, if perhaps her only friends. Chester and Diaz provide the show's biggest laughs and appear to have the greatest time together, even though the relationship between Weezer and Clary is at times adversarial. Throughout Steel Magnolias, there's moments of great laughter and joy balanced with moments of tears and sadness. At 2 hours, 20 minutes approximately, Steel Magnolias continues at the Majestic Theater in West Springfield until November 30th, 2025, so make sure to see it, enjoy it, rinse, and repeat. For tickets and more information, contact the Majestic Theater box office at 413-747-7797 or visit majestictheater.com. To read the full review, visit METRMag.com. As we mentioned in last week's episode, we want to take a look at the shows coming up during the month of November. Continuing shows in Massachusetts include Hamilton by Lin-Manuel Miranda, continuing from Broadway in Boston at the Citizens Opera House through November 2nd. The Counter by Megan Kennedy continues at Umbrella Arts Center in Concord through November 9th. Tick, Tick, Boom by Jonathan Larson also continues at Umbrella Arts through November 23rd. Sardines, a comedy about death, written and performed by Chris Grace, continues at the Huntington Theatre Company in Boston through November 16th. The Share Show, with a book by Rick Elise, concludes at the North Shore Music Theatre in Beverly on November 2nd. Robert Harling's Steel Magnolias is playing at the Majestic Theatre in West Springfield through November 30th. Murder for Two by Joe Canosian and Kellen Blair is playing at the Greater Boston Stage Company in Stoneham through November 9th. Wait Until Dark by Frederick Knott and Jeffrey Hatcher, not Jaffrey Hatcher as shown here, continues at Cannon Theatre in Devons through November 9th. Lizard Boy, a new musical by Justin Huertas, is now playing at Speakeasy Stage Company in Boston through November 22nd. Honeymoon at Graveside Manor by Pat Cook is a Halloween treat from Pasture Prime Players in Charlton, Mass., premiering October 31st and running through November 9th. Connected the Musical by Catherine Denny is now playing at Neshoba Players in Westford, Mass. Through November 2nd, 2025. For tickets or more information on any of these upcoming shows, you can contact the theaters directly or use the links available from the listings on the METRMag site. Looking ahead through November, it will be a busy month with a plethora of new shows in Massachusetts, including Mania, the ABBA tribute, returning to the Hanover Theatre for the Performing Arts in Worcester for one night only on November 1st at 7:30 p.m. A Sherlock Carol by Mark Shanahan debuts at the Lyric Stage Company in Boston from November 1st through December 21st. She Kills Monsters by Qui Nguyen from Concord Players will run from November 2nd through November 22nd. HMS Pinafore, or The Last That Loved a Sailor by Gilbert and Sullivan, will be a 50th anniversary celebration from Valley Light Opera in Northampton, Mass., running from November 6th through November 9th. Beehive, the 60s Musical by Larry Gallagher plays at the Barnstable Comedy Club in Barnstable, Mass. From November 6th through November 23rd. Summer 1976 by David Auburn will debut at Central Square Theatre in Cambridge, running from November 6th through November 30th. Sherlock Holmes in the Case of the Jersey Lily by Katie Furgett will unfold live on stage courtesy of the Washington Street Players in Holliston from November 7th through November 15th. The Thanksgiving Play by Larissa Fasthorse will be performed by Burlington Players from November 7th through November 22nd. Hadestown by Inez Mitchell will play a very limited engagement at PPAC in Providence, Rhode Island from November 7th through November 9th. Complexions Contemporary Ballet will premiere at the Hanover Theatre as part of their new dance series for one night only on November 7th at 7:30 p.m. Steve Martin and Martin Short bring their show Dukes of Funnytown to the Bach Center Wang Theatre in Boston from November 7th through November 8th. End Days by Deborah Zoe Laffer will be performed by City on a Hill Arts in Leominster, Mass. From November 8th through November 15th. Harry Potter and the Cursed Child will hit the stage at the Emerson Colonial Theatre in Boston from November 9th through December 20th. Fun Home, the musical by Janine Tesori, Lisa Cron, and Alison Bechdel, will be performed by the Huntington Theatre Company in Boston from November 14th through December 14th. 'Twas the Night Before by Cirque du Soleil will entertain the holiday masses at the Bach Center Wang Theatre in Boston from November 26th through December 14th. And finally, at least for now, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat by Andrew Lloyd Webber will light up the stage at Theatre at the Mount in Gardner, Mass. From November 28th through December 7th, 2025. Again, for tickets or more information on any of these upcoming shows, you can contact the theaters directly or use the links available from the listings on the METRMag site. Before we go, I just want to mention one last thing, which is that occasionally someone will reach out and ask me, why aren't we covering this theater or that theater, as part of METRMag or this podcast. And we do try. There are some theaters which are a little insular in nature. They don't tend to advertise. They don't want additional bodies because their space is relatively limited. So they pretty much keep to themselves, and they're happy with that, which is fine. If they don't want to review, we're not going to press. I never show up on anyone's door unannounced, uninvited to review their show. They need to reach out to me. They need to reach out to METRMag in order for us to list them on the site, in order for us to help get word out about their shows. And if they want to, they can send information to reviews@METRMag.com, and we'll be happy to include it on the website, be happy to include it in a future broadcast of this show, but they need to reach out to us. So that's it. Here's hoping everyone has a wonderful Halloween, a safe and happy Halloween. Don't eat too many rotten treats. And until next time, here's hoping everyone will take some time to see what's happening this week in Massachusetts theater. Thank you very much, and have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.